Recording me now? Hey, internet! This man and his Doberman just attacked me and my Chihuahua.
It's not a Doberman. What are you doing?
Help! He just bit me!
No, he didn't.
Bit me. Help! Police! Someone call the police! Help!
He bit me!
Anyways, guys, let's talk about cars today, because I'm definitely going to be talking about Ford Broncos. Anyway, though, Denver Broncos 2025 roster grades. Let's get this thing going. And with that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the NFL. Please like and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the Denver Broncos 2025 roster grades. Again, out of the AFC West, they've got a tough division, but hey, they did make the playoffs last year, and that does count for something. Did they really do anything there? Outside of that touchdown to Troy Franklin that Bo Nix threw, not really. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to look at what they did this offseason and see if this roster is actually able to compete and maybe even, who knows, maybe win a playoff game. With that said, though, if you have not watched any previous roster grades, you're just here right for the Broncos. Watch this. If you've seen other ones, skip right to the thing. Again, I'm just going to explain how this works. All right. You can see I have a range for every single letter grade, and that's based on a point system that I have evaluated, kind of constructed here. But what you do need to know is that every single position is weighted differently, and there is a multiplier for each letter grade by that position, and then whatever you get for the letter grade multiplied by the weight is what you're going to get for your grade. That value of the weight times that is going to get you your point value. The point value goes in here again, like as you can see, F. If there's an F, like it's kind of hard to see. If I give an F to anything, it's 0 points. Literally, no, it's like nothing. It like does absolutely nothing for your roster, and that's probably detrimental. But yeah, so it's very hard to get an F. It's very hard to get an. And it's not very hard to get an A plus. It's very hard to get an F. So yes, that's how you get that. So we know that. So that's what I'll say. So what am I doing? There we go. Let's take quarterback. B. So you're gonna get whatever the weight is times whatever that is in terms of the multiplier. You get that. That's where we get this. So that's the point system. That all adds up to an offense and then a defense as well. So you take those two numbers, then you add whatever this is. Again, these are the other three categories, kind of like other things. That gives you your overall roster grade. As you can see, there's a range for that. We'll get to that later in the offseason. And then, of course, like I said, offensively, defensively, there's different ranges for that as well. With that said, that's rule I got on this. Again, one last thing. 234 points is considered average for a roster. So, again, if it hits that, I probably will give it an anyway. Anyway, though, let's get in the Broncos quarterback situation. And for Bo Nix and this Broncos offense, again, he's their starting quarterback. Again, coming into the, last year, many people were skeptical of him being picked at 12 just because, again, he was sort of older. I mean, he's 25 already. Also, being a guy that, isn't exactly the most physically gifted quarterback. He's not, like, he has, like, he's a good athlete and stuff, has a decent arm. Not a great arm, but, or not even I'd probably just say just a decent arm and stuff. But, like, no one's, like, over the moon about him. He doesn't exactly have the greatest deep ball at all times, but again, I still think he had a really good senior season there at Oregon. And again, the fact that people are like, is he even that good? Really stepped up this year again. In this Sean Payton system, fit almost like into a glove in a lot of ways towards the end of the season there. And he threw for 700 yards, almost 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I think that's 2 away from Justin Herbert's record that he set back in 2020, yeah, there we go. Again, we look at the game log. He had an atrocious first, probably like, if I'm being honest, first 4 weeks he had. Whereas, he had 1 touchdown to 4 interceptions through the first 4 weeks, and his completion percentage was in the dumpster. After that, though, I mean, he's 25 of 60 is just not good. After that, though, he kind of took it in stride. Again, the completion percentage at the end of the season might not have been the most prolific, but again, it was still pretty solid. And again, overall, Bo Nix again figured himself out. Was very good under pressure. Again, you saw that scrambling ability throughout the season. And outside of some rookie mistakes and stuff, he had a really good season. Again, throwing over the middle and stuff. He again, like I said, he fits perfectly in the Sean Payton system. And as long as Sean Payton's their head coach, and again they continue to adapt and adjust, he should have a very good NFL career. Jarrett Stidham is the backup. Is not a bad guy to have. Again, he was supposed to be, I guess, the Patriots' answer. Not really. It was weird. He was pretty productive with the Raiders in those 2 or 3 starts he had back in 2022. With the Broncos kind of filled in after they benched Russell Wilson, with the contract thing. But as a backup, I mean, Jarrett Stidham's a pretty solid player. Sam Ehlinger can't throw a football either. I mean, he can kind of throw a football. He can kind of run too, but he's not very good. Again, we look at Sam Ehlinger, if I'm going to really go into him. He was Texas' quarterback for a couple of years there. What is it, since like 2018, if this is going to load? It might not load. But yeah, Sam Ehlinger. He started in 2022, hasn't done anything since. With that said, though, if I'm going to give Bo Nix a grade, I'll probably give him a B-. That might be a little bit harsh. Again, you could probably give them a B, and I'd be pretty solid with that. Again, he had a really solid rookie season, but is he like he actually like this good? I don't know. And at the same time, like he wasn't an elite quarterback by any means either. So like again, very good rookie season, probably exceeds everyone's expectations. But like, do I give him a B? I'll give him a B. I'll be nice on him because again, he had a really good season. And again, is that's gonna really carry over? Maybe not. Maybe we'll see. 40 points though for quarterback. Now let's look at the skill positions for the Broncos. No matter what way you slice it, looking at the Broncos running back situation, it is not a good one. Again, I'm just going to say it right now, J.K. Dobbins is not a guy that I'm too confident in, again, a team being able to rely on. But last year, he was a good running back. There's no way around it. We all know he is very, very talented. But, like, yeah, he can break big runs and stuff. And, yeah, he's pretty physical. He can break tackles. And, yeah, he's a good running back. He can't stay healthy. There's no way around it. Like I said, 9 games in 2 years, 2 major injuries. Or actually 3 if you really think about it. Again, had that amazing 2020 season. Like I just don't know if you can. You just can't really depend on him as an actual starting running back when he's healthy. Pretty darn good player, but like, is he actually that good? I don't know. RJ Harvey, I think, is probably their best bet as a guy who they actually give the most carries to. Again, if they want to preserve J.K. Dobbins in a lot of ways. Yes, he's pretty small, but he breaks tackles. He has pretty solid vision. He's got really good speed. Overall, he's just a quality back. He was number 39 on the big board, and they got him at 60. Will he be their starting running back this year? I really think so. Also, he saw it out of the backfield. He'll be a guy that can use in a lot of different ways, and they don't actually need to use him as like a 250-plus carry guy because, again, they do have J.K. Dobbins. So those two in tandem I like a lot. Audric Estime was not good last year. The numbers might tell you otherwise, but he was really just not explosive when he was in this offense. They kind of were in a rut of sorts. And again, for a guy who's supposed to be a dependable sort of power back, we didn't really get that out of him. Drew McLaughlin is basically a battering ram for people to just run into. I mean, he's okay, I guess. They utilized him a lot in 2023 as a receiver as well. Last year, he had a pretty similar results that we saw, outside of the fact that I think he might have been a little bit more worn out in a lot of ways. But still, I guess as like a third string guy, he's not the worst. So there is depth at this position for the Broncos, but that's probably all I can say about it. Because, like, again, J.K. Dobbins is very talented. R.J. Harvey I like a lot. But at the same time, like, there's issues. And then again, the backups after that is just not great. So I'd probably give them a C at running back. I think that's pretty fair to say. They might even want to be worse, but like J.K. Dobbins is just, I think, too good of a player for you to think that he's lower than a C, like when it comes down to it. So I think a C is fair. It's going to be 15 points, I think, which I think is warranted there. Now when we look at wide receiver for the Broncos, it's definitely a weird situation. Of course, Cortland Sutton is their number 1 receiver. He played like that last year. He had his best season since that 2020 season, or 2019 season before COVID. Of course, he tore his ACL in 2020. But the biggest thing when you look at Cortland Sutton is that he just isn't a guy who's going to create the most separation, and he's from a guy who, again, in 2019 was his best ability was catching the jump ball, which he still is. So, again, he still has that part of his game. But in terms of the efficiency and actually getting open of sorts is not part of his game that he's really ever been able to replicate from that 2019 season. But, same time, last year, much more productive. His routes were a lot more crisp, which I liked a lot as well. We'll see how that translates this year. I don't know if he's a true number 1 receiver, but he was their only good option last year, and he did a lot with it. Marvin Mims, again, he looked pretty solid his first couple games with Russell Wilson. Of course, he had that 60-yard touchdown in 2023. Ever since, though, he's had his issues sort of like becoming more than just, kind of like a one-trick pony. And then even last year, he really didn't have a good too much success going deep. Again, he had that 93-yard touchdown, but outside of that, like, really wasn't doing too much. I don't really think he's a guy that's anything more than a solid flash in the pan here and there. Devon Daly is probably, he's definitely their next best option because he's a guy who's pretty, again, like, I won't even say efficient, but pretty effective underneath. But his ability to, like, break tackles and stuff is definitely something that I'd like to see come on a little bit more, as well as the fact that he isn't a guy you're going to really see do anything sort of outside the numbers. So with that, I mean, he's not like the worst option, but like I said, he's probably more of a better as like a 4th option, to be honest with you. Troy Franklin did not have the greatest rookie year, to say the least. He's probably I'd say, like, legitimately probably the best guy creating separation on his entire team. But he's not consistent in his hands. Again, didn't look great. But again, for a guy who can coming out of Oregon, you're like, he could definitely do some damage. You really didn't see that at all last year. He's definitely got some work to do. But like, he still has the talent and definitely the ability. So if you're looking for a guy like that, he's definitely your answer for this team. Next would be Pat Bryant, who is a weird guy, to say the least, out of Illinois, because he's just not the greatest player in the world. Again, they picked him really high, though, so I think they do like him a lot. He's got pretty good body control. That's really all I got on him because, again, him adjusting and stuff off of the routes he runs, which is basically just a freaking stick, to be honest with you. So he's actually a very one route dominant player, but he's very good off of it, and they can use him in a lot of different ways, so I guess they have that there. Trent Sherfield, I wouldn't call him awful, but he's just not a very good NFL wide receiver. He had that one massive touchdown against the Niners back in 2022. That's really all I can talk about with him because he just doesn't play a lot. He has struggled to get in the field. 2018 with the Cardinals was really his only season where he got like legitimate playing time. Outside of that, though, I mean, he's not the worst receiver to have on your team because he's a solid returner at like when worst comes to worst. And also he's got, again, some decent ability in terms of his speed, but he's just not a great NFL receiver. A.T. Perry, he had a very, I'd probably say, positive start to his career back in 2023 with the Saints because he did a lot of different things for them. But 2024, I don't even know what happened. He get injured. Who knows what happened to him? He kind of just has disappeared since then. But overall for this receiving core, it's really lacking. I'll say they get a C as well because, like, yes, Cortland Sutton, I think, is a guy who can provide #1 receiver production when asked for it. Is he a true #1 receiver? I wouldn't say so, but he was able to be their only real option last year. They got some like guys that can do stuff, but they really don't have a #2 receiver whatsoever. And you could even argue Cortland Sutton is better fit as a #2. But I'd probably say they get a C. You could argue even a C-. But again, Cortland Sutton I think is a little bit too good for that. So I don't know. This is weird. I think a C is fair because it's not a terrible receiving core by any means. They got guys who can make plays, but it just overall is definitely like lacking. And then again, finally, look at the last position they have, which is tight end, which is much better than it was last year, specifically because they got Evan Ingram, there we go, who I get didn't really have his greatest season last year in 9 games, but at the same time, he still put a pretty solid production. Again, it was a far cry from 114 catch season he had in 2023. But ever since he got to the Jaguars, he has been a solid player. Again, I'd like to see him maybe get back to the efficiency we saw in 2022. But he's definitely a guy who can get a lot of targets to, and he's never been the greatest blocker. But as a receiver, he's always provided plus value, even on the Giants team where he wasn't exactly the greatest. If you remember back in 2020 and 2021, even say 2019, where again he still wasn't very good. So he's an older tight end for sure, but I think he's a guy who can definitely provide some quality production there, which is what they need. Adam Trautman is not a good player. He just straight up isn't. He's pretty bad. But I will say he can sometimes do some things as a blocker, and he can break tackles once in a while. But as the actual starting tight end, not your answer. Lucas Kroll is awful, and Nate Atkins is oof. He's had better days for sure. Anyway, though, Michael Barnes is a decent fullback, so I guess you can counter that in. I'd probably give them a B- at tight end. The depth, again, could be worse. Evan Ingram was a quality starter, so that's going to be 6, 12, 14 points at tight end. Now let's look at this offensive line before the offense, their grade gets revealed. This Broncos offensive line is really good, to just say this, just to be completely honest with you. Garrett Bowles, after a struggle in 2019, has been one of the more underrated players in the entire NFL. Yes, he's 33. Yes, he's pretty old. But for a guy coming out in 2017 who's like, 25 years old, he's really taken on a huge role, and he's been a franchise left tackle for them ever since that COVID season. Matt Pert is not a good NFL player. He played with the Giants, but I mean, he's not the worst guy to have. Again, he can sometimes sustain blocks, and he is able to, against some of those speedier rushers, be able to deflect them outside. Against Power, though, he definitely struggles. Ben Power Powers is a guy you're not going to really ask to be doing too much of the heavy lifting. As a run blocker, he's pretty effective like that, and again, he will be able to match up pretty well one-on-one as well as a pass blocker against some of these, again, more power-esque interior rushers. Calvin Throckmorton has definitely had his moments for sure with the Saints. Outside of that, though, he really hasn't gotten true full season playing time. So again, there's nothing really much to go after there. But again, he is somewhat experienced, so we can definitely again go off with that. Luke Wattenberg is a good center. Alex Forsythe again was a solid depth piece they picked back in 2023. That is what he will be in the NFL. Again, that's what he has been. Quinn Meinerz is an elite right guard. He rarely makes mistakes. It's probably his best thing. He's very, very fluid. I did not know he went to that college, but cool for him. He's a freaking beast. He looks like a Viking, and he's going to be there for a while. Nick Gargulio, I have no idea who this guy is. He's out of South Carolina. Oh, no, this is the guy that got absolutely flattened. That was actually hilarious. He's kind of a bum, but I haven't really seen him play in the league yet, so we'll see what happens. Michael Gunchie's a dead average right tackle, but it's hard to find that, so again, that's why he got a big contract. Alex Poluschek, or whatever, I don't even know how to pronounce it. He's solid depth. He got some opportunities last year and a little bit in 2023 with that Michael Gunchie injury, and he did do a decent job when he played, but at the same time, he's not a guy I really going to be wanting out there to, lead block or anything like that, because he just doesn't have the athleticism for that. With that said, though, they have some pretty proven depth here on this O-line, and then the starters, I really have no complaints about at all. I'll give this O-line a B+. You could even put it in the A tier if you wanted to, but I don't really, Ben Powers and Michael Lynch really overall are just average players. You got Quinn Meinerz and Garrett Bowles, who are really, really good, and then Luke Wattenberg, who's kind of in the middle. So I think a B+ is pretty fair for this O-line. Also, again, you could argue it's just as good as that as the Panthers O-line we talked about, but I'd argue otherwise. So we're going to put them in a B+. That's going to be 6, 12, 18. If you wanted to put it up, I mean, you could definitely do that. And then we look at this overall offensive grade, 15, 15, 18. We're going to figure that out as 102 points. And then we look at this in the range. That's going to put them in the C+ tier. I'll give this offense a B-. Again, I'll definitely give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, especially with them on the higher range of that. Yes, their skill positions, again, outside of the tight end are just not the greatest. But they got a really solid quarterback offensively last year. They were really solid production. I think this O-line will definitely elevate this running game as well. And again, Sean Payton BOC kind of give him a little bit of that boost as well. So again, we'll get more in the identity, but kind of just like boosting him at both parts because again, he's going to make this offense go. With that said, let's get in the front seven because again, that's pretty important for this defense. All right, now looking at the defensive line before we get into the rest of the front seven for the Broncos, it's a pretty darn good group. Zach Allen is an elite interior pass rusher. Yes, as a run defender, he has had better seasons than 2024, but again, still had a very solid season overall. 8.5 sacks was a career high. I don't think he was as consistent as we saw in 2023 on an overall basis, but as an interior rusher, he wreaks havoc. Nasty power. He's just going to move you every single time. You just got to be ready for that. And also has several moves off it. He's, again, an elite, premier interior guy there. Savion Jones, I think he does benefit going to the freaking Broncos because not only does he fit this scheme, but also he won't be asked to be doing as much of sort of the things that he's going to have to adjust in the league to because look at him coming out. He's definitely a guy who has some sort of experience as an edge rusher, which is pretty cool, again, for a guy coming out of LSU here. But again, the biggest issue is that as a run defender, he's going to be able to what is it called? Take the right leverage and be able to penetrate off of that. Because if he's not able to do that, there's really not a point of putting him on the field as a rookie. I think he'll be able to figure that out. Again, it's not like he's bad at it. It's just kind of like a consistency sort of thing and really, again, honing in, especially with how this Broncos run defensive schemes, again, built up. Also, again, as a pass rusher, you know what he'll do. He'll produce. DJ Jones for a nose tackle is very interesting to watch. He's had some decent pressure rates at times in his career, but again, for a guy who's 30, you're not going to be asking him to do that much stuff. They give him a decent contract to be a run stuffer, and that's what he's going to be. Most nose tackles are asked to do that. That's kind of what separates average to below average guys from good guys, and then obviously that next step for pass rush. John Franklin Myers, he has not come anywhere close to that season he had back in 2021 as with the Jets in terms of his like overall like dominance as what is called edge rusher. But he moved in the interior last year as a 3-tech and he thrived. I just don't know. I can't really I don't want to see that was like again an outlier season from like this production because he proved it on the film. Like he looked really good. But at the same time, like they got Zach on the other side. He's getting double teamed a lot. I just think John Franklin Myers as an edge rusher is definitely a lot more fluid. But last year, like the film showed, he was really freaking good. I'm just like concerned that like I don't know. I think he fits this team better as more of a run defensive 3-tech kind of like versatile guy, which is what he is. But they haven't really used him like that yet. We'll see what happens. But again, with Zach Allen on the other side, he's gonna get his opportunities and he will produce. Malcolm Roach, solid run stopping nose tackle there, and then Jordan Jackson is a guy that I have yet to really see do much of anything in the league because again it was 1 year. But yeah, I think he has some potential. Again. He's not a guy you're going to be really looking at to, make any huge plays, but he will get pressure when you give him the opportunity to. With that said, though, I got to get this. Like Matt Henningsen has gotten some experience, but they're not really important, to be honest with you guys. So for this D-line, I mean, there's really no complaints. I'll probably give them what are we going to say, a B+. Because, again, you have an elite guy here. DJ Jones is pretty darn good, and they got not decent depth, but interesting depth. And then John Franklin Myers, who is one of his, production-wise, had his best season of his career. Not that I think he was as good as 2021, but best season of his career. So 18 points. For the D-line, which I think is pretty just there. And then again, we look at the linebacking core. Dre Greenlaw is one of the most talented players in the entire NFL. I will stick on that hill, or whatever you want to call it. Again, he tore his Achilles after a career season in 2023. Not really. He's been good his entire career. Again, he struggled with injury in the past. Tore his Achilles. He played a little bit last year before just getting shut down after that game against the Rams, and that was when the Devondre Campbell thing happened. Anyway, though, when he's on the field, he's one of the best players in the NFL. Like, most talented players in the NFL for his position. Just, again, outside of a guy like Fred Warner in terms of coverage, he's just as good. He might even be more strong and more physical in terms of just raw athleticism. Dre Greenlaw is an absolute freaking monster and generational instincts. So, yeah, when he's on the field, he's one of the best players in linebackers in football. But, again, injury-wise and, like, is he really going to be that guy next year? Who knows? Alex Singleton is a tackling machine, not for a good thing, though. Again, he's really just out there to, make tackles. He only played 3 games last year. Like, what's going to happen? But, he's just a tackle machine. That's kind of like a lazy take on him. Really what he doesn't miss tackles. Simple as that. Gets a lot of opportunities. His run stuffer does a good job. Yes, he's a little bit more conservative. He racks these up because he does give a lot of yardage coverage. That is the truth. But hey, overall, he's a pretty solid linebacker when it comes down to it. Not elite, not great, but a good player. Justin Strang got a lot of opportunities last year. I liked his blitzing ability and he can mix and match a little bit as well. But again, in terms of consistency and actually being a starting linebacker, has a lot of work to do. Drew Sanders tore his Achilles or his ACL, something like that. He is by far the best blitzer on this roster. It's not even close. Again, he just has that, a gift to him. But at the same time, that's what you saw coming out of Arkansas. But like, I just have some issues of him actually going to be being a guy who could, you could start out there because he's a little bit over aggressive in coverage, which just reminds me of Devin White because that's what Devin White does. But his instincts are not lacking by any means, so I don't think that'll be an issue. So if I'm going to be honest, I think this linebacking core is going to get a B+. Yes, that might be a little bit higher on the spectrum for that because you're like, is Dre Greenlaw going to be healthy? The depth I really like a lot, though, like on the high end. And again, Alex Singleton being a very solid player as well. So, yes, 3 to the 4 guys are coming off injuries, so you might want to give them a B, which I think is I'm going to go down to. But in terms of potential for this linebacking core, it could be one of the best in the entire NFL. So, in terms of, again, if we're going to take injury out of the way, yeah, but again, both they got 2 guys who had major season-ending injuries either a year ago or this past season, and you just got to take that into account because, again, most guys aren't just like going out there being beasts right away. I mean, Dre Greenlaw probably will be, but that's besides the point. And again, we got both these guys are solid depth. Again, Drew Sanders had the injury and stuff, so I'm going to stick him at a B because of the injuries and also who knows again how this stuff will work out. But I'd say 24 points for the linebackers. Then we look at the edge rushers to figure out how good this pass rush is. Nick Bonito proved to be a true number 1 edge rusher. Yes, the numbers are inflated. I mean, he was not a 13.5 sack player this year. But like, who the heck? What do you mean by that? Pressure rates and on film, and we look at his release package and just overall makeup last season as a true again edge rusher and his like overall profile. Not a 13.5 sack player, but he still produced that, and the pressure rates were maybe not that great, but they were still pretty close. So, I mean, I don't think he's legitimately, like, that good of a player, but he's a freaking number 1 passer. What else am I supposed to say, guys? Back-to-back season where he produced like one, and yes, last season was definitely a lot more, like, filled out where it wasn't just inflated. Still inflated, but, like, more of a, like, a true 8-sack player. So, yeah, again, if I was going to, like, weight this overall, yeah, again, he was a decent, again, he's going to be crappy run defender his entire career, but definitely a little bit better. But again, you can't argue with it. Nick Bonito's a number 1 edge rusher. He just is that talented, and then he was like, well, those numbers aren't true. I mean, like partly, like you're thinking of like Trey Henderson a couple years ago or before he went to the Bengals. Yeah, but I'm gonna take the bet on this that he's gonna prove it again this year. Maybe not put up even close to the same numbers, but I think he's a true number 1 edge rusher. Again, even though those numbers are inflated, I think it's fair to say. Jonathan Cooper, very versatile player, super athletic. He has really developed a power rush there, kind of a speed to power sort of thing for him. Yes, he has absolutely no finesse move, and his scissor move that he uses most of the time isn't the most effective. But he's gonna be a tenacious run defender, just has those instincts, and just I don't know, he finds a way to get to the ball carrier. And as an edge rusher, that speed to power, that acceleration he has. You really can't match it. So, again, very, very, very a good diamond in the rough for them there. He's really turned into a guy, not a 10.5 sack player, but still a guy that, will be a decent, again, Robin to Nick Bonito. Dondre Tillman is a guy who, again, no one knows about because, pretty simply put, like, he's kind of an irrelevant player. But he had 5 sacks last year. I think I'm not mistaken, like 24 pressures in those, what is it called? It was a very absurd pressure rate. He's a guy who will provide quality rotational depth. Jonah Ellis, again, we talk about this defense, again, like, having so many, like, just parts to it. This is part of it. Jonah Ellis, again, I'm like, yeah, he's a pretty developed prospect. He produces you probably wanted him to at best case, and he did. Q Robinson, I expect to join in on this as well. Andrew Farmer, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I think they're, like, top 5, if I'm not mistaken, in league in sacks. They might have even led the league in sacks. These are reasons why. Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, Dondre Tillman, and Jonah Ellis all did that. They will not be that good next year. Maybe Jonathan Cooper puts up 10 sacks, but I would be shocked if any of these guys match their totals from last year. I might be wrong, but this edge rushing group is really good. Most underrated edge rushing group in the entire league by far. Yes, the numbers are inflated. There's no way around it. On film, though, it was legit, though, so I got to give them, like, I kind of got to balance that out. So, we're looking at this pass rush overall, guys. I got to give them an A. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. We could say an A- to be safe, but the depth is real. This is one of the more well-put-together pass rushers in the entire league. There's no way around it. I think I'll just give them an A, to be honest with you. Yeah, I might be buying on this a little bit too much, but at the same time, I'm telling you guys, there's definitely a little bit of inflation, but they were one of the best pass rushers in the league last year. There's no way around on every single front. 12, 24, 36, 44 points, and yes, the secondary is part of it, which is what we're about to get into. All right, secondary for the Broncos last year was a little bit of a struggle at times in terms of, again, their actual starting caliber players, but they have the best corner in the league by a mile in Pat Surtain. It's not even close. Again, he won Defensive Player of the Year. Only him and Stephon Gilmore are the last guys that, again, I have recollection of being, cornerbacks to win the Defensive Player of the Year. He is unbelievable. Any situation you put him, he's going to lock guys up. Again, he's just elite, and it's just, again, there's no other. He's the best corner in football. Riley Moss, yes, he's white. Yes, he got burned by Tegans last year a lot. That's all people think about. But actually, as a starting caliber player, he's your average corner, which for a white guy is pretty good. Definitely doesn't have the crazy ceiling, but again, he started all last year. Did do a decent job overall, but again, you know, he's got limitations. But he's an average run-of-the-mill corner for a number 2 guy. Again, you could definitely have worse. Damari Mathis is terrible. I don't know what it is about him. He consistently, I mean consistently, makes huge mistakes. It's just not good. Again, it's just not good. Chris Abrams-Drain is not a fun player to watch. That's also very boring. But again, he got injured, so I really don't. Like, I don't know how much to go off of. When I saw him, like, this guy's just boring. Yeah, he's kind of like whatever. But, I mean, yeah, he'll do a decent job. Again, for depth, you'll work with it. Damari Mathis, I guess you can work with it. Jahade Barron, I love this pick by them. Again, it wasn't exactly addressing a need, but it's like, who's the best on the board? Who can we get the most value of? It is Jahade Barron. He will be the most valuable piece of this defense. Yes, Patrick Surtain's the best player on this entire roster by a mile in a lot of ways. Again, I'm not trying to downplay anyone else on this team, but, like, he's just that good. But Jahade Barron, he'll be a guy that can basically move around and let Pat Surtain do whatever he wants. These 2 guys, again, Pat Surtain and Jahade Barron, will be chess pieces. But at the same time, we got to see if Jahade Barron can really stick as a true press corner in the league. I think he absolutely can because that's his biggest strength. But we'll see how it works out because he's, again, not the fastest guy in the world. Daquan McMillan, who should have been their starter, was just not very good last year. He had an elite 2023 season in coverage, was just an absolute dominant turnover machine. Last year still was a decent playmaker, but in terms of the actual coverage, consistency, and just the numbers overall, not the same player. I would say on cover, I mean, in terms of tackling him as a run defender, he's definitely a little bit more reliable. But yeah, Daquan McMillan definitely not the same player by any means last year. So again, let's see if he can have a bounce back season. But for this cornerback room, there's no way around it. It's gonna get an probably an A-. Yes. Is Riley Moss an average corner? I understand that. You could like fully concerned. That probably brings it down to a B. But Jahade Barron, Daquan McMillan, again, coming off down here, and they got decent depth. I think an A- is fair to say, just because of, again, like a guy like Patrick Surtain at the end of the day is going to just bring all these guys up. That's why he's the best corner in football. 20 points there. Safety. Talano Funga has not really played much the past 2 years. Again, he had the torn, what was it, ACL in 2023. Last year, I don't even know how he got injured. But again, 2022, he was an elite player despite, you know, not being the most consistent and really the most, I wouldn't say reliable, but the most, again, he's kind of a risky player on the field. He's kind of like a risky, but he kind of plays carefree on the field, which is fine with me. But like, Talanoa Funga definitely not a guy you're gonna be looking at there like, yeah, you're gonna anchor this defense. But he's a phenomenal player when again, what we saw in 2022. We'll see how that turns out. Brandon Jones. I have no complaints over. He's not a boring player, which is good because he has very, very good instincts there. He had a massive season in terms of, what is it called? As a run defender last year, coming down a lot. Yes, in coverage, he's not going to really provide you much. But again, it's just, again, kind of like a Cam Curl in a lot of ways. He'll do a decent job. PJ Locke, Devon are both solid backups. I think J.L. Skinner's better than both of them, though. And Sam Franklin is terrible. So we'll see how that turns out. And you got these other 2 guys who have paid a little bit, but neither one of them are good. All right, for safety. Kind of tough to grade because I really don't know like where all these guys are sitting. I'll probably give them a B- because Talanoa Funga does have a ceiling despite, you know, not really playing it much at all last year. Just 17 games, and again, he's missed half his games the past 2 years. But it's, at the same time, like, Brandon Jones is a solid player, and they got decent depth. I'll work with it. I'll say a B-. That's going to be 9, 18, 21 points. And then we look at the overall grade, be 44, plus 20. There we go. Plus 21, plus 18, plus 24. That's going to be 127 points for this defense. That's going to put them right in the B tier, which I'm going to actually give them a B+ for because they were much better than a B defense last year. Like, I wouldn't say they were one of the best in the league, but they were very, very good. And again, if some of these consistencies can happen, that would be really good. And then again, we'll see how this depth turns out because that's what we're getting to right now. All right, now at the special teams again, their actual their punting unit and then their kicking kick defense unit. They're there. That's about it. They're kind of just out there. Will Lutz, again, former what kicker, what team? The Saints. There we go. He was always a good kicker there outside of 2022 where he kind of fell off a little bit. Again, past years the Broncos though he's been A-okay. So yeah, Will Lutz is a good kicker. But what else you want to know? He didn't play in 2021 with an injury. So yeah, big leg as well. Not the biggest, but a very big leg. Jeremy Crawshaw. I have no idea who this dude is, but my guess is a pretty stud punter. He's out of Florida. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I probably only watched maybe 4 full actual Florida games outside of the guys I had to watch for film. Marvin Mims is a really good returner. Mitchell Frabani is not the greatest long snapper from what I have gotten intel on. So for this special teams unit, kind of a wash, but I'll give them a B- because I think they're a pretty reliable group. That's 3, 6, 7 points for the special teams unit. And then now we look at the depth, quarterback depth. Again, if we can get up there, I'd give a B-. Jarrett Stidham isn't the greatest guy to have in the world, but again, you can work with it. Running back depth, I give a B. Again, not the greatest, but it works. Receiver depth, really weird, but I don't know, C-. It's not the greatest, right? Again, it just kind of falls off. This is tough, though. I don't know, because depth and actual receiver are like the exact same thing. So it's like, are very similar. So if I had to say so far, what would we say? A B-, a B, C-. I'd say we're at a C+ so far. C+, tight end, I'd give a C+. It's not the greatest depth. We're probably still at C+. O-line depth, I'd give a C+ as well. You're sitting at C+ here. D-line depth, I give a C. So honestly, we're probably dropping to a C at this point. Linebacker depth is probably a B+, so I'd say we creep it back up to a C+. Then we look at this line edge rusher depth, that's going to be also be a B+. So then we're at a B for sure. So we're going to say a B there. Cornerback depth, I'd give a C-ish. Yeah, I'd probably say a C+. So C+ there. C+, and then we say B, B-. Safety depth, I give a B, so I'd say we're still at a B-. That's what we're going to find ourselves sitting at here. So B- for the depth. Again, there's really no like position that's like there's any massive holes at. There's some positions that could use a little bit more depth. But again, overall, it's pretty like average in terms of every position. That's usually amounts to good things. So that's 12, 24, 28 points at the depth, and then we look at the identity of this team. Offensively, pretty simple. If Sean Payton can get again a consistent season like we saw at Bo Nix for most of last year, their offense will be fine. The only issue is, can they compete against these better defenses? Because when we saw them play against the Ravens and the Bills in those stadiums, they got their absolute arses whooped. So again, that's the biggest thing. Are they gonna actually make that a step offensively? Bo Nix is gonna have to be honestly a lot better, and then this run, not a lot better. He's gonna have to be better in those games, and also this the skill positions do concern me. So offensively, with Sean Payton being who he is, I'm gonna say a B. Defensively, though, they're going to be great. Again, if they're actually going to replicate what they did last year, which I'm going to say absolutely not, because, again, all signs are, every single sign possible is signaling towards, telling towards, regression, which is what it should be. So I'd probably say a C+. They might struggle a little bit with that. But anyways, it's going to be a B-. Again, they got a pretty solid foundation for their identity. That's going to be 15, 30, 35 points. Now let's see what this overall roster grade is. All right, doing the math. What do we have? 128 plus, what do we say for the offense? 102. So 102 plus 7 plus 28 plus 35. We get to 300 points, which I think we got for someone else who I'm not really remembering here. 300 points. That's going to put them, I think that's not good. The Falcons are the same roster grade. A B. So, yeah, a B. So, yes, I think that's fit. This is a pretty solid roster. Again, overall, they're definitely lacking a little bit of star power. Defensively, though, they're looking really good. I don't know if it compares too much to maybe that 2015, not even 2015 defense. The remnants of that 2015 defense that we saw for a couple years after Peyton retired. Maybe it compares to that. I think that's probably a pretty good comparison in terms of where this defense is in terms of their best players. Offensively, though, they just don't have it at the running back and wide receiver position. That's just kind of holding them back. They'd be a lot higher if they did have that. Again, yes, they have the exact same roster grade in a lot of ways as the Falcons, but at the same time, again, some teams have to be bad, some teams have to be good. That's all I'll say. But yeah, really solid roster for you guys, Broncos. Is this good enough to actually, do something in the playoffs? We'll have to just wait and see for that. But B, 300 total points for them. And yeah, here's a hint of the team that, has done stuff in the playoffs, but, maybe not as much as they would have liked.
First offensive play, Richardson fake the boot. He'll load it up and cut it loose with that big arm. Justin Shorter has the long gain on the first play. Touchdown, Gators. Strike up the band. Where's that baller baton? 75-yard house call. Richardson to Shorter. They went play action, fake, held the linebackers.